Hey guys, so welcome to tonight's live stream. Hopefully tonight we get a better go at the streaming. Yesterday it was terrible in the streaming, on all fronts in fact. But I've got 4 kids, so the 4 kids were all on iPads last night, so I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with it. I didn't realise I was still up and still at. But anyway, because in Singapore it's, what is it now? It's 6, just going on 6 p.m. But anyway, so today what I thought I'd cover was... you'll see my frame has turned to be more positive because I think it's so hard to get positivity out there and it's so hard to find positive news stories. You actually have to go into the negative news stories and look for the positive paragraph or sentence or thing like that. There's very little that is actually just like pure positive news. It's unfortunate because what that does is just focuses all on the negative. So the question I wanted to pose today was can we get to 100,000 masks by the end of April? That's what the government has said. Can we do it? And is that too late, end of April? But anyway, we'll look at that today. But we'll get into it, and we'll have a look at the general stuff that we go through. So good guys. But we've got 13 days left. I actually think we're going to overshoot this mark. I think given where it is, and I think fair enough, London potentially might get through, but I think actually as Constantine is out across the rest of the country, I think we're probably going to have a bit longer. And if you look at most of the incentive packages, they're talking about 3 months, that sort of stuff. And I think really, as I've been saying for a while, we've got this for a while. We're going to have this for a while. So the reality is that we've got to consider that 79 days. I think is that 3-month mark, which is probably about right. The good thing now is most countries have all come together and they're doing the same things about how to stop it. So most governments know, right, this is the correct way to stop it. And there's still a few resisting, but like even Singapore today just announced that they're going into a form of lockdown where they're closing the schools and for a month they're basically going to, just have people only do similar to what the UK is doing, and in fact most people. Probably not as draconian as Italy and Spain or perhaps Wuhan was. But we'll see how that works. But I think that will work, certainly for Singapore it'll work. For us, look, 1 million cases, we've gone over the million mark, 50,000 deaths, so it is, and for me, we haven't really even got started yet, and I think that's the real thing here. 936 the day before, yesterday, it is pretty full on. I'm not going to go through the individual stats. US is just getting absolutely rammed, and they just haven't got personal protective equipment. I mean, it's unthinkable to be asking these people to go in with out these things, knowing what the president knew over there. But it's not only happening there; it's happening everywhere around the place. And even the UK, not enough personal equipment, not enough testing, not enough. So they're really starting to run low. Most countries now are really starting to get involved and actually focusing in on what is needed and getting it ramped up. The question is it too little, too late? And that's it's a valid question because it's all good to come so late to the party and then decide that you're going to provide 1 million masks on order. But I mean, even with the in America, GM, they're not expecting to have it's going to take them a month or two to get the ventilators. Which is wow. That's that's a lot of people that are going to die. And unfortunately, that's on Trump. Trump and his minions. But look, anyway, let's focus. So, outcomes. We talked about 2 types of outcomes. Yeah, there's obviously the recovery outcome, and then there's the other one, which we don't need to talk about because we all hear about it so much. And as I said yesterday, it's a struggle to find detailed figures on the recovery rates. But look, 266 outcomes. 213 of those are recovered. Okay, so that's the good news in this whole thing. Obviously, the other ones have passed. But 18,500 people recovered yesterday between yesterday and today, which is great news. So that's some good news. Still 80%, and it's likely to stay 80%. But mind you, that once it starts to all quell down and come down, that's when we'll start seeing that 80% recovered become 90%, become 95%, and probably end up being 98 to 99% recovered. Okay. But unfortunately, that really won't change too much. It might go up a little bit in that, but it won't change too much until we get to the back end of the thing. So, expect to see around the 80% mark for, the rest of the time, for the next month or two. But anyway, that's good news if you like. Some more good news, because I really want to focus on good news now, things that are happening. But as I said before, it's really hard to find. I mean, the last article I found that had a whole list of them was on the 19th of March. It's almost criminal that that's the case. We should be having, our news media and our governments should be publishing this sort of good news every day, lists of it, individual stories, all that sort of stuff. I don't know what happened to news, but it's just gone to the whole negative part. I'm sure there is so many human stories out there, of success and things that have gone well, and how doctors are being, they're just not getting out there. I mean, the unfortunate thing is most of the doctors and nurses are just feeling like they're being left, to fend for themselves without the equipment they need. And this is not just in the US, it's especially in the US, but yeah. Interestingly, the CBILS, the Coronavirus Business Incentive Loan Scheme, seems to be taken advantage of by a few of the banks. And out of 130 applications, only 1,000 have been approved, which is appalling. And I've heard interest rates up to 30%, as well as directors are being forced to effectively wear all the risk by underwriting all of these loans. There's so many stories coming out now about this, that actually the government have now reissued instructions to say there's no personal guarantees up to 250,000, and they need to look at that more favourably, because really it's no use having a scheme if the banks aren't going to lend, and if the banks are just going to see it as a profit opportunity. The issue is they haven't defined what the interest rate needs to be. So I think the interest rates could be extortionate and cost prohibitive, that businesses are just not going to use it. We're looking at it right now. Obviously, they're hugely busy. We've got the list of things we need to provide. It seems to be a full application pretty much, as if it's commercial. And I think that's the attitude. They've gone, go for commercial. If you can get commercial, you get it that way. Otherwise, then we'll put you onto the CBILS. Well, I'm pretty sure that's not how it was meant. So the government need to get on top of this. Otherwise, businesses are going to shut, and they will take with it. That furloughing is useless if the business shuts. So they need to get on top of this. Good news, the recovery rate's still 99% recovery. It's amazing, because most people express it as the other side, which is the 1% to 2% death rate. That just shows you how negative and how focused on the negative downside we've been. Focus on the positive, on the recovery rate, 98 to 99% recovery rate. That's a pretty good recovery rate in the end. Children are still less affected. There's still a milder version, so that's good news. Many countries that took early action have actually been able to control the virus, not stamp it out, not kill it out, but they've been able to control it, which is good news. I think one of the big things, if you look in the Spanish flu, you might have had the daily newspaper, you might have had the wireless radio with some news, but the reality was, if you were suffering for this, you were kind of alone. I mean, now we've got so many avenues through the internet. So, technology has allowed us a totally different experience. In some ways, it can be a bit more frightening, because when you go online, there is so much negativity. But actually, the ability to be able to do that, and the ability to be able to call out our, prime ministers and presidents and leaders, and that is extraordinary now. I watch when Trump gives his address each day. I watch it. And I watch it not through Trump, but I watch it through a guy who does a fact check. So as he's talking, he's literally fact checking everything he says. It's appalling how many lies that guy makes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. On the UK front, great news. 20,000 NHS workers are returning to work. So these are guys who have retired, who left, who are coming back to work for the NHS. 20,000. The other day I reported 4,500, so it's gone up. 560,000 volunteers I reported the other day. That is now 750,000 volunteers. That's extraordinary. And I think, if we focus just on that one point, it's an amazing thing that people are, willing to go into that and get involved in it. That just shows you the quality of the human nature. And I think, we've had a very divisive 3 years with Brexit, but actually now we've been able to turn that around. And I think, realistically, this is the best of us and the best of people. Yes, there's the worst of coming out with some of the politicians and the people they're leaving out, and the fact that they're happy to leave people to die. But actually, by far the majority of things that are happening is really showing the best of us, and I think that's great, to happen. 33,000 beds freed up, equivalent to 50 hospitals. I mean, if you think for 10 years, 12 years, we had austerity, just hammering us down. Every possible pound that could be taken out of the economy was taken out. And same with the NHS. There were so many complaints about the NHS, but when the sticks are down, all of a sudden they've been able to turn around and effectively create the capacity for 50 hospitals. And a lot of that is the Nightingale hospitals. But it's extraordinary what can be done when you've got a singleness of purpose and when you've got a goal and some leadership. If we can do this, imagine how well we can do post-Brexit wise. And that is the sort of leadership that we need now going forwards. Certainly Boris and Richie have set off on the right track. They do need to continue it, but obviously Boris is a bit vacant right now. He's got the virus, but he'll be back, I'm sure. But the reality is, that's awesome. Now, I just want to take you through. So this 100,000 tests by the end of April. So on the 18th of May, the government said basically that it would hit 25,000 per day. Yeah. By the middle of April, And I think one of the things that we have definitely not done enough of is testing. Yeah. Look at all the success stories around the place. It's testing. Testing, tracking, and isolating. We haven't been doing it, and you can see by the graph just there that we're the lowest. Even America, we need to ramp up. You can't have America beach on something simple like that. But South Korea, which is probably the poster boy for success, look what they got in. But more importantly, they got in really early, which allowed them to stop the community spread. The fact, look, the US is the worst in terms of how long they left it, and that's why they're going to get absolutely spanked. But even if you look at the model, the model between Italy and the US is very similar. The UK got in there, so I think that's why the UK is not going to get hit as hard. It's still going to be hard. We still left it too long. But 25th of March, Boris says, we're going from 5 to 10,000, 25,000, hopefully 250,000 per day, very soon. Well, can we get there? Well, the other day, literally yesterday, they come out with 100,000 tests by the end of April. Now, for me, I think we need to do better than that. I think we need to just absolutely focus on the testing. Yes, we need to focus on the hospitals and that sort of stuff. But if we get the testing and then we can isolate people and we can track the people that have been around, then we can really narrow that curve and get it down in a relatively quick manner. So I think that's really important, to look at. But can we get to 100,000? Look, the great thing is there is a lot of companies that are getting behind this, and I think now the whole country is getting behind it. They realise the need, they realise the seriousness of it. There's a time when this was treated as if it was a China thing, and we can blame China and all that sort of stuff. That's not the time. It's not time for this, any of that. What the time is now is about the medical emergency and the human tragedy. Yeah, the economy can come later as well. But certainly the medical and the human side is what we need to be focusing on now. And I think now they are taking the medical seriously, which is good news. But all right, guys, that's it for today. So have a fantastic day, and remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow. And definitely stay at home. All right, see you later. Bye.